The trail of heartbreak left by a flooding disaster in Central Texas has grown again, with more families learning that loved ones have been lost. Earlier today, officials revised the number of dead upwards. The total now stands at 59 in Kerr County alone, and that includes 21 children. But as well, several other deaths are being recorded right across the region. While some people now have some sort of closure, others are still anxious and waiting for the news.
At present, there are 11 Camp Mystic campers unaccounted for, along with one counselor. We extend our sincerest condolences and prayers for every single family affected by this tragedy. And we continue to work around the clock and reunite these families. We will continue to search efforts until everybody is found.
Now, it's believed the 11 missing children were at a riverside summer camp that was swamped by a wall of water that rose some 8 meters. That's 26 feet in just 45 minutes following intense thunderstorms. As the search continues there and downstream, officials continue to face questions about why there wasn't sufficient warning about the bad weather.
One of the questions that still hasn't been answered 3 days into this is, despite TEM's warning on July 2nd and July 3rd that something like this could have happened, that the threat existed, why that information didn't get down to the camps and why they weren't evacuated. Can you answer that now?
That is a great question, but again, we want to make sure that we continue to focus. We still have 11 missing children that we want to get reunited with our families. Until we can get reunited with our families, we are not going to stop until we do. So, thank you.
Just a quick follow-up question, sir. Was any emergency alert given out on the 4th that morning of? Did anyone get any
there are
alert?
families who deserve better than that.
CNN reporter Lee Waldman is near the site of that summer camp that was submerged by flash flooding and has more on the search and rescue operation happening right across Central Texas.
So you mentioned it, 59 people are dead here in Kerr County, but across Central Texas, across those several counties being impacted by these floodwaters, their death toll is now reaching 67 total. It's a heartbreaking number that continues to climb, like you mentioned. 11 girls still missing, one counselor from this camp behind us still unaccounted for. Crews are still working along the riverbanks trying to clear debris. We spoke to one man who was in a boot and he said, "I've got a strong back. I need to be out here to help." He got emotional because his daughters were counselors years ago at Camp Mystic. He says it's a very special place to this community. There's not just this camp, though, along the banks of the Guadalupe River. In this entire area, there's nearly a dozen camps here for kids who are all impacted by the floodwaters that came in on the early morning hours of Friday. And the officials from Kerrville were pressed about why these camps were not evacuated ahead of these floodwaters, despite some of the warnings that came in. And the official didn't elaborate. He simply said that's a good question. It's one we're going to continue to ask as the search and rescue efforts continue throughout this area. It's raining still here. That rain is expected to persist throughout the day today and into tomorrow as well. And that's causing some difficult search and rescue conditions. But the governor here in Texas has vowed that those efforts will continue until every single one of these girls from Camp Mystic is found.
You mentioned the warning issues that so many residents are saying, why weren't we told sooner? Why weren't we told with more urgency? So we'll absolutely keep an eye on further developments on that. As you said, the priority, it seems, for officials is the rescue operation. So to that end, what is the status of any support coming from the state or from the federal authorities?
That's a good question, Natasha. So we've reported on some of the early warnings that came to residents in this area. There's questions about why there were not more warnings issued, but there were some issued before these floodwaters came gushing through this area. Now, we do know that there's been some widespread reporting of cuts to the National Weather Service, to FEMA, to NOAA, all of these different entities that track the weather. We heard from Kristi Noem, the Secretary of Homeland Security, and she said that they're working now to try and replace what she called an ancient, outdated system to help with these alerts that are happening. You also asked about federal aid. We know that President Trump has signed the disaster declaration that was called for by Governor Greg Abbott yesterday, so that federal aid is coming. Abbott himself has directed all of the state resources to this community to try and help in those search and rescue efforts. But it's not just this community that's being hit. hit hard. It's several different counties across Texas that are feeling the impacts of the weather that's moved through here. You know, I called San Antonio home for 2.5 years, and I'm talking to friends who still live in this area, and over again, we're hearing from them that they have loved ones, they have friends that they haven't heard from that are still missing, and they're not getting any information. They're just hoping and waiting that they'll get some kind of good news days down the road.
CNN reporter Lee Waldman in Hunt, Texas.